And we're live. Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Patrina from the APDT, Association of Pet Dog Trainers. And tonight I'm going to be joined by our APDT Chair, Jane Robinson. And Jane's going to be talking to us and talking to me. We're going to be doing a bit of a Q&A, dialogue, chat between the trainers about management and that management isn't cheating and what does good management look like in a variety of scenarios. Drop a little hello in the comments. If you can hear me okay, if you can see me okay, if everything's all good. Let me just have a little look in the comments. There they are. Good. Yeah, we are definitely live. Cool. Yeah, Louise and Georgia. Hi. Hi. So Louise was on last night. If anybody didn't see it, go back and watch the recording. She did a really good presentation on why you should train a dog and why you should train a dog with positive reinforcement. And we've got Georgia coming along tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow. All about gun dogs. So if you've got a gun dog of any description, come along and watch Georgia talk to me then about all about gun dogs. Right. Okay. So we're gonna bring Jane Robinson on. Hi, Jane.
Good evening, Patrina. How are you?
I'm fine. So Jane, you're based up in North London.
Yes.
And you have a particular type of client. And really we want to know about what is good management and where does management start?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? I too thought it would be a good idea to discover what is the definition of good management before I came on today. So I went to the fountain of all knowledge and I Googled, what's good management? And the answer I got was good management involves individualizing every employee to maximize their potential and best utilize their unique skills. And I thought that's a very interesting definition because we can switch out some of the words and we can use them in a different way to reflect working with dogs or people. Good management involves individualizing every dog to maximize their potential and best utilize their unique skills. Or we could say good management is individualizing every handler to maximize their potential and best utilize their unique skills. So that can really improve the relationship between handler and dog, dog and handler, and we can live a better life together. Personally, I think that dog training can be quite task driven. And while there's nothing wrong with that, I think for those of us who may be time poor or for handlers who find it difficult to pick up certain skills, we can just as effectively use good management to set the dog and the handler up for success, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, so I suppose that definition that you picked up was from a business kind of thing. It wasn't, you didn't type in what does management look like in dog training because you know what management looks like in dog training because you're a dog trainer. But it's
Yes.
it's looking broadly at what is good management, and that's the kind of people management thing. And I suppose we don't often think of management in those terms in dog training so much because what we're looking at is environmental management or setting the dog up to succeed by management. And wouldn't you agree that that kind of starts at puppyhood? What have you got about where you get your dog from, which dog you
Well,
get?
well, exactly. I mean, if we want to be really picky, we could say good management starts before you've even brought your puppy home. If you're buying a puppy, that is. But if you're thinking of buying a puppy, well, what would that look like? Choosing a reputable breeder, researching the breed you're going to be living with. You're going to be sharing your life with a dog for hopefully 10 to 15 years. How compatible are you going to be together? What will the dog need? What have they been bred for thousands of years to do? And how's that going to fit in with your lifestyle? And what's the breeder? Who's the breeder? Have they done health tests? We can put in really good management before we've even brought the puppy home. And understanding what that puppy is going to need when you bring them home, of course, is crucial, and managing your expectations as well.
And when we think about environmental management, what kind of things might we do for a puppy then?
Yeah, I mean, loads, because we want to. What can't we do? We want to, as you know, we want to guide that puppy to make really good choices. So setting up our homes so that the puppy is safe is crucial. Crate training, if it's introduced in a positive way to the puppy, a crate or a pen is a great management tool because it prevents the puppy from wandering around your home and potentially chewing on electrical cables. I mean, of course, I'd say good management starts with puppy proofing the house before you bring the dog home, but a lot of people don't think about that stuff. So crate training, if you're into it, where's the crate going to go? We all know that puppies are quite stressed when they leave their litter. They've been removed from their attachment figure, and it can be very frightening. Good management to me looks like, well, if I'm going to crate train that puppy, I'm going to make sure that I'm close to that crate at night time when the puppy needs to sleep to prevent it from potentially getting isolation distress, which could lead to separation anxiety. Different subject. We know some dogs are just born with it. But, I want to set that puppy up for success and prevent, if possible, isolation distress by being close to that puppy, which of course is going to build a stronger bond between us. So where the crate is going to be, that's jolly good management. What are you expecting of toilet training? How can you set the puppy up for success? Well, good management is making sure the puppy has access to wherever you're expecting them to toilet on a regular basis. So if you're working in a different room to where the back door is to the garden, how are you going to set that up so that you can make sure that the puppy's in the right place at the right time? And other management tools for puppies, baby gates, pens. A lead is a management tool, and of course that should be ideally attached to a well-fitted harness. We don't want puppies strangling themselves. That's all good management, and we can guide our puppies to make really good choices and set them up for success. Because as we know, we really want to prevent what we classify as undesirable behaviour, whatever that looks like, given that we are two different species. Yeah. And dogs are dogs.
Absolutely. I mean, you touched on kind of good management is wearing a harness and a lead, and I hear from lots of puppy owners and dog owners who have a problem with recall. And, the easiest thing, if you've got a dog with a problem with recall, is number one, put it on a lead or put it on a long line to stop it practicing behaviours. And I guess that kind of unwanted behaviour, which is the running off and the not coming back. I guess that feeds into the kind of topic of management isn't cheating. If you have got a dog that hasn't got a solid recall, that you can't trust to be in the park because they do go and picnic raid, or they do run up and jump over people wearing cream chinos or something, management is putting that dog on a long lead and being able to control them and go for a walk with them, still allowing them some freedom, but also having that control that they can't go and do the things you don't want them to do.
Exactly, because dogs are going to be dogs. They're always going to be dogs. And I have that dog who has the most amazing recall. He's always had a great recall. But if it's summertime and we're in the woods and people are having picnics on the kind of picnicking area, I know fine well if it's a choice between me and a ham sandwich, the sandwich is going to win every single time. So I either don't go to that place at that time when people are more likely to be eating, or I take a different route around the park so that I don't put the dog in the situation, or I just pop him back on the lead. That's good management.
Absolutely. What about reactive dogs? What kind of management options do you have there? What kind of things do you speak to owners about if they've got a dog who's maybe fearful or just reactive frustration wise or something like that? What kind of things do you talk to them about?
I think it's really important to let the owners know that they haven't done anything wrong. We've got behaviour happening at both ends of the lead, don't we? And we need to take care and support the dog and the owner, because owners can often feel really guilty about whatever their dog is doing. And so it's really important for them to understand that they haven't done anything wrong. Depends what the dog's reacting to. Frequently, I live in North London, and it's a very, very busy, it's very dog-centric, and it's quite difficult to walk dogs without seeing other dogs. So if you've got a dog reactive dog, I think the first thing we have to discuss is, well, it's okay if your dog doesn't like being around other dogs. I don't like being around all the people that I meet. I'm quite selective with my friendships, and it's the same. I don't see why it would be any different for a dog. But good management in that sense might mean, well, look, walk your dog at quieter times of day so we can avoid that conflict. We can avoid putting the dog in a situation where he or she is saying, I really can't cope with this. I have clients who are really time poor. Doesn't make them bad dog owners. They just don't have the time to do the kind of work that we know is required to help and support a dog who can't cope with being around other dogs. So they have one day when they put the dog in the car and they drive somewhere really quiet. The next day, they will stay at home and do free work and scent work. The day after that, they might go somewhere else in the car. They do have one day when they get up and they'll walk the dog around the block at different times of day when they know it's going to be really quiet. They've got really good management tools of what to do if the dog sees another dog. And that might, depending on how close the dog is to the other dog, just be, here's a lump of cheese, I'm going to chuck it down, your head's going to go down there, and the other dog can walk by. So it's all doable.
Yeah, and I think management techniques like that, like kind of turn and go or doing sprinkles in the grass or whatever, are often overlooked as cheating because they're like, well, the dog's not learning, and you have to impress upon them that actually that your dog knows full well that there is a dog on the other side of the road, and they're choosing not to react because you've got them engaged in something else, and there is still learning happening. There is still some counter conditioning happening because that dog is there and they know they're there. There is some classical conditioning. There is lots and lots going on in that dog's mind. So it's management of a situation, isn't it? In order to give the best possible outcome for that dog at that time.
I think so. And I'm not saying that we don't do training and we don't do counter conditioning and I'm not saying that we're not doing that. I'm just saying, in order to prevent the dog from practicing an undesirable behavior, we need to set up really good management so that the dog can do something else and can cope, and the owners can cope, and they're getting skills that they can go, right, okay, someone's walking towards me, what do I do? I'm just going to throw some food down here, just stand really close to my dog so that the other people can go around me. Or if I've got enough time, I'm going to get my dog onto the other side of the road and just stand behind a car.
Mm-hmm.
And the car's a barrier. That's a
Mm-hmm.
really good management tool. That's not cheating. That's setting yourself and your dog up for success. Because we all know the more you practice something, the better you get at it. If your dog is continually practicing distance increasing behaviors, they're just going to get much better at doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the owner's going to get more frustrated and more depressed, and it affects their mental health. And then they don't want to take the dog out at all. So we have to go, well, right, this is the situation. What can your dog do? How can we make this work for you guys? A little bit of management can go a long way to help people feel a little bit more confident. That you're right, I'm not saying that we don't do dog training, but that we can really help people by going, it's okay, it's not all task driven. You don't have to have this machine walking next to you, giving you eye contact for 45 minutes while you walk down the high street. That's unrealistic. That's not setting people up for success.
Absolutely. And I suppose we both work with separation anxiety. What would be your idea of management in a dog with a separation related problem or with separation anxiety? What would management look like there?
Well, you and I both know that if your dog can't cope with being left alone, then good management and changing the dog's feelings, emotions, starts with not leaving the dog at all. That might mean employing dog sitters. It might mean reaching out to your local community. If you're part of a church group or other kind of community, religious community, people could come and sit with the dog. Students, having the dog go to daycare if you can afford it.
There's
I've
always
got, sorry.
no, I was going to say there's always someone, isn't there, that can there's somebody that can look after your dog. And there's a saying, it takes a village to raise a child, but it often takes a village to raise a dog as well, and especially a dog with separation problems.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Well, I'm going to say, it is difficult because you can't leave the dog. That's got to be the agreement between the handler, the owner, and the dog is, look, while you're going through this, I'm not going to leave you, or I'm not going to put you in a situation where you can't cope. And I understand the stress that's involved around that. But the other side of the coin is, well, you might start doing your separation anxiety training, and then when you go out, you've blown it. You've got to start from scratch again. But we both know that separation anxiety on a whole is something that can be resolved. So it is worth sticking with it if you can.
Yeah, I think with all of these kind of management things, and particularly with something like separation anxiety, which we deal with a lot, and is actually just I can't work out, and a lot of people can't work out whether it's shown a massive increase because of COVID and lockdowns and things like that, or whether people are just more perceptive of how their dog feels, and they're using technology and cameras to watch them while they're gone, so they know their dog's having a problem. Because it used to be, well, if the neighbours aren't complaining about the barking and he just chews the skirting boards up a bit, but now they're watching on camera and he's been pacing for 3 hours before he's chewed the skirting boards up.
That's
So
right.
there was going to be a problem there, but it was just something that you could overlook. It's always about preventing the dog from practicing that behaviour, because the more they practice that behaviour, and if they're exposed to negative emotion, they're becoming sensitized. So we probably see it a lot in separation anxiety when people cannot leave their dogs with somebody, in that the training actually goes backwards. No matter if they're trying to do work around it, the dog is still being exposed by that fear-inducing environment, stimuli, whatever you want to call it. So it is really, really important with that. But with any problem behaviour, if you've got a dog that's, like I said about recall, running off, then the management thing to stop the running off initially before you try and do some retraining is always going to be have that dog on a lead or on a long line or unable to practice that really fun behaviour of running off. So
yeah. And other simple things, like people say, well, how do the dog is begging for food at the kitchen table. How do I stop the dog from begging for food? Well, you could give your dog something to chew on his bed while you eat your dinner. That's not cheating. You don't have to necessarily train the dog to go to his bed or his mat. You can just provide something for the dog to do while you're eating. Barking in the garden. That's a big one for me. I see that a lot. Dogs who bark in the garden, because we've got loads of foxes around here.
And they're brave and brazen, aren't they?
They are. I mean, so woman with two terriers who are supposed to be chasing and killing vermin, and I have between February and April each year, we have foxes that run along the fence, and there's a gap between our fence and the neighbour's fence, and they nest in that lovely safe space in between, and it drives my dogs absolutely bonkers. And I'm really lucky. I've got a really good recall. I can call them away. However, I know there are certain times of day when the foxes are just more active. And I know that there are more people at home in their houses, and they really don't want to listen to my dogs barking in the garden. So I keep an extra lead by the back door, and I take one out on the lead, go to the loo, reward the non-barking, and let's go back in again.
And if people on here don't know what kind of dogs you have, Jane has 2 Yorkshire Terriers, which create quite an explosion. I used to live next door to 2 Yorkshire Terriers as a child, and the owner would open the back door and the dogs would just explode out the door, down the garden, after my cats probably. And I think the cats, and possibly how foxes are a little bit as well. It's kind of like sport, My sister-in-law in Stoke Newington, the fox sits on the pergola in the garden and just looks down, as if like, well, no, you can't get me, and the dogs are going crazy underneath. Yeah, but not very nice for neighbours. Yeah, exactly. And then we had another example which we discussed before about there's a few things here. Dogs barking out the front window at passers-by. What would you do then?
I have a client whose dog sits on the chair by the front window, barking at passers-by. And so we put some frosting over the window and moved the chair. Now we don't have a problem. It turned out that particular dog, I think, is also really bored, lack of other stuff to do. Well, I'll just go shout out the window, shall I? And it's a great way to get your owner to come back, by shouting out the window. I'll train my owner by barking out the window. So we put frosting over the glass, we moved the chair, and we've given the dog more opportunities to chew, lick, sniff, reducing arousal. We've got a less bored dog, and a much calmer dog. So, and okay, there we go again. how do you prevent what's good management in puppies when they're chewing the furniture? Give them appropriate items on which they can chew, because we know that dogs get more sensory information from putting stuff in their mouths. That's what they're going to do. They're also going to explore the world with their mouths because they don't have hands. So if you're bringing a puppy home and you've got a beautiful rug, well, roll it up for the time being while the puppy's going through that lovely chewy stage, and make sure that they've got appropriate items on which they can chew. That's good management. It's not cheating, is it? You don't have to spend your life trying to move the dog away from the antique rug. Who's got time?
Yeah. And also the crushing disappointment from puppy that's peed on your rug too many times and you don't want them peeing on the rugs is, yeah. It's quite stressful having puppies. Who would have puppies ever? Us.
Indeed.
Good. And Denise has just asked a question about, I'm going to just bring it on screen quickly. The management of 2 dogs triples the general level of management in homes, yes or no?
That's a good question, Denise. Yes. Well, multi-dog households is a whole subject on its own, isn't it?
I think when you get over 1 dog, you see a real difference in the dynamics between the dogs, the energy levels, the feeling like you need 4 sets of eyes and 4 sets of hands when you go for a walk a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And kind of like if you've got 2 dogs, you may as well just have 3 or 4 because your lives are quite dictated by your dogs much
Absolutely.
more. That's my experience of it anyway, of having more than 1
Yeah.
dog. And
Yeah.
that's why I have 1 dog now. Yeah. And Denise has also said management is another word for time-saving success. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We really are time poor. I don't think it matters where. I mean, I'm in North London and people really are time poor, but I mean, everyone's time poor, aren't they? I mean, nobody's got lashings. I mean, wouldn't it be lovely if we all had time to to spend doing all the things that we thought we were going to do with our dogs and how we were going to train them, and we're going to have the best dog on the planet, and with all the best will in the world, stuff happens, and we just need to find good ways to manage them to set everybody up for success, so that you've got a happy dog,
Yeah.
happy owner.
And the average pet dog, a lot of people, it's not their intention to train them much more than the very, very basics. And a lot of people do not like training their dogs, and we want to make it fun, but not everybody likes the same thing. So even if you could make it as fun as you want, and you could introduce all these games and all the concepts and everything like that, and start sticker charts for your clients, but some people just don't enjoy it, and they just want a nice, manageable dog. So if that means putting a letterbox on the back of your post box so that your dog doesn't eat your post, that's management. But it means your dog's not eating and ripping your post and biting the postman, potentially.
Yeah.
There are so many management things that we can put in place to just make life easier and stop the dog doing the bad things,
Yes, because dogs, like I said earlier, dogs are always going to be dogs. They're always going to do what dogs do. And frequently it doesn't really fit in with what humans like, barking, chewing, peeing everywhere.
Chasing, yeah, all of the above. Yeah, exactly. How do I stop my dog chasing sheep? Put a lead on it. That's management. Yes. It's really easy to do, and it doesn't hurt your dog.
Not a problem that we have in North London. And that's one of the problems we don't have in North London is sheep chasing.
No, but we do. I mean, I came around the corner once in Greenwich Park, and not only was me and my 5 dogs that I was with greeted by a horse, but it was also a policeman on a horse. And I was like, oh, I hope this is going to work now. Come, rather desperate. They all came back and they were all good as gold and absolutely fine, and put them on a lead and hello, officer. But you are sometimes confronted with things like that, and there are city farms, and you don't know what's going to happen. I heard of a case in Vauxhall the other day where a little dog got kicked in the head by a horse that had been out. So lost an eye. Wasn't very nice, but maybe shouldn't have been quite so close to the enclosure. Not sure of the full details, but poor dog. So even in the middle of the city, we do have these city farms. We do have this interaction with animals sometimes.
I just wouldn't take my dog. There you go. There's good management.
Yeah, there's good management. Don't go anywhere near. I know, but a lot of city farms, and we have quite a few in South London. There's quite a few horse stables which have been set up for the kids to do things with, and they're just in the middle of the park. So you're like, okay, I can't go to the park now because of that. I could just keep my dog on a lead and away from them, and then it would be safer.
Or you could find out when they're going to be there and then go at a different time.
Yeah. Yeah, all good management tips. Do we have any questions? If you've got any questions or any comments about management, you can pop them in the chat and we can bring them up on screen. We've got 20 odd people watching today, so that's good. Has anybody got some really good examples of management that they want to?
Oh, yeah, let's hear other people's.
Okay. Oh, and Lorraine has said, and it doesn't upset the sheep. There are two animals to consider in that scenario, often forgotten. So having a lead on means that your dog isn't worrying the sheep and isn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, how would you manage a dog when he's territorial in a car?
Wow, that's a good one. I think we could introduce the dog to a covered crate, couldn't we? So that the dog doesn't have access to looking out the window. That's a good strategy.
Yeah, I would say for management, you're thinking about visual barriers so that they're not practicing that territorial behaviour. You could then look at changing associations and things, but as a quick and we talked about this yesterday, Louise, what's quick and dirty dog training, and sometimes it's management, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, covered crate. If you're having to have other dog, if you're a dog walker or something like that, Sheila, I'm not quite sure what you do, but yeah, having them in a crate, or having me from a training perspective, if someone came to me and said, I'm a dog walker and I've got a dog that doesn't like other dogs getting in the car, I'd probably, if the dog was okay with other dogs in general, get that dog out of the car and then get them all back in together.
Mm-hmm.
A bit like the advice of if you go around somebody's house and they've got a dog, get the dog out, get everyone meeting on neutral territory and then go in, so that neither of them are feeling in conflict. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Sheila? Does that help at all?
It's a big subject, isn't it? Because there's lots of there's so many different things to consider.
Yeah.
Like what else is going on with the dog? Is it the location in the car? Are they feeling pain in the car? Is that what's causing the behaviour?
Different management when you take your dog on holiday, the livestock being a good example if they've been a city dog. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Rachel said teaching muzzle training for dogs that scavenge as well as leave it cues. Yeah.
Yes.
Great one.
Yes, that was actually, I completely forgot, that was on my list to discuss, because a muzzle is a great management tool for dogs that scavenge, and it can prevent it could prevent your dog from picking up something toxic.
Yeah. Laura said, I have a bully with stranger danger, so when guests come over, he is either crated or we go on a walk with a visitor before the visitor comes into our home. This has helped so much. If his stress level is at any level with a guest, he gets a stuffed Kong in his crate in a room with a TV or radio on. Oh, you sound like a lovely owner, Laura.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's lovely.
Yeah. I think that because for me, the reason why this subject came up as a trainer was because I was with a client, and I think the dog was I think her dog was like rushing at the front door. And I said, have you ever considered just putting a baby gate up so the dog can't do the behavior? And she said to me, well, can I do that? Isn't that cheating? I said, no, why is that cheating?
Yeah. Solves the problem. I mean, stops the problem. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Sheila's just followed up with would the territorial action be linked to his dislike of car travel? Not sure, maybe.
It depends on the dog, doesn't it? It really does. So I think you just have to get a much deeper history and more detail about the dog. Sometimes changing where the dog is in the car can change the association, or you can change the association by changing where the dog physically is in the car. But there are so many things happening there that you'd have to just take a much more detailed history of your life with that dog in that car. Does it happen in every car? Could you put the dog in a different car?
Test it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Louise has just left a comment saying double barriers helped when bringing an adult bitch home into the family with already 2 adult dogs and an adult bitch. 2 baby gates to go through between each dog. Just reduce chance of management failure, plus reduce any chance of fence fights between the girls just in case. So if anybody doesn't know what that is, what Louise is describing is a kind of airlock situation. So you would have maybe a baby gate on the kitchen, you would have your hallway, and then you'd have your lounge maybe, and a baby gate on the lounge. So you've always got that airlock situation, so the dogs can't get to each other, because you do hear stories about fence fighting and them grabbing each other through the bars and jumping over the gates as well. See that? Dogs can jump really high if they need to, and there's something worth it on the other side, like a dog they really want to have a fight with.
But that's great management. Set the dogs up for success. And then that reduces your stress, doesn't it? I just think it's really important to understand that there's behaviour happening at both ends of the lead, and we just really need to, as trainers, we want to set them both up for success. We want owners to feel more confident, and we want our dogs to feel safe.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jane. So we'll wrap things up and let people have their evening back to go and get their dinner. Where can people find out about you if they're looking for you? Jane works remotely as well as seeing people in person in North London, don't you?
Yeah. My company is called Dog on the Hill because I live on a hill. So I'm Dog on the Hill, and I work in and around North London, as Patrina said, in person and remotely. And I run puppy classes. And what else?
You do scent work,
I
one-to-one.
do.
You do
Yeah,
separation
one-to-one.
anxiety work. You do other behaviour work because you are behaviourist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Right. Well, tomorrow I'm going to be joined by Georgia. I'm sure I am. I think I am. If I say I am, I am.
You are.
I'm joined by Georgia tomorrow, and she's going to be talking to us all about gun dogs. If you've missed this live recording but you're watching the replay, just drop us a little hashtag saying you're watching on the replay, and you can always drop your questions in, and someone from the APDT team, which may well be our chair or me, will pop in and answer them if you've got some management questions. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.